It was 6:30 in the morning on a cold February day in Houston, Texas, and George Foreman was doing something nobody expected a 45-year-old heavyweight boxer to do. He was running. Not the slow jog of an old man trying to stay in shape, but the hard, punishing run of a fighter who had something to prove. Because in 9 months, George Foreman was going to do the impossible. He was going to become the oldest heavyweight champion in boxing history. But first, he had to get through this morning. And this morning, a skinny kid was about to change everything.
Foreman's route took him through one of Houston's roughest neighborhoods, the Fifth Ward, the same streets where he'd grown up angry, violent, and convinced the world owed him nothing. He knew these blocks like the back of his hand. The abandoned buildings, the broken street lights, the people sleeping in doorways trying to escape the cold. Nothing had changed in 40 years, except him. As Foreman rounded the corner near where his youth center stood, a small figure stepped out from behind a dumpster. A boy, maybe 11 or 12 years old, wearing clothes 3 sizes too big and shoes held together with duct tape. The kid's face was dirty, his hair matted, and his eyes had that look Foreman recognized immediately.
The look of someone who'd given up hope long before they should have had to. "Mister," the kid said, his voice barely above a whisper, "you got $5? Foreman stopped running. He was breathing hard, sweat pouring down his face despite the cold morning air. At 6'3" and 250 pounds, even at 45, George Foreman was an intimidating presence. Most people crossed the street when they saw him coming, but this kid had stepped right into his path. "$5 for what?" Foreman asked. The boy looked down at his feet, at those sad, taped-together shoes. "I ain't eaten in 2 days. There's a McDonald's up the street. I just need enough for something to eat." Foreman studied the kid carefully. He'd heard every con, every hustle, every lie the streets could produce. He'd told most of them himself when he was young, but this kid wasn't lying. You could see it in the way his hand shook, not from cold, but from hunger. You could see it in the hollow of his cheeks, the way his clothes hung on a frame that should have been filled out with muscle and youth.
"What's your name?" Foreman asked. "Marcus," the boy said quietly. "Marcus what?" "Just Marcus. I don't use my last name no more." Foreman understood that too. When you're running from something, from someone, from a life you didn't choose, sometimes you shed your name like a snake sheds its skin. "How old are you, Marcus?" 12. I'll be 13 next month, if I make it that long." The casual way the kid said that last part, like survival was a coin flip, hit Foreman harder than any punch he'd taken in the ring. This boy didn't think he was going to live to see 13, and out here, on these streets, maybe he was right.
George Foreman reached into his pocket. He had about $40 in cash, money he'd brought for breakfast after his run. He pulled out a $5 bill and held it out to Marcus. The boy's eyes widened. His hand shot out and grabbed the money like he was afraid Foreman would change his mind. "Thank you, mister. Thank you so much. God bless you." Marcus turned to leave, clutching that $5 bill like it was a winning lottery ticket. And that's when George Foreman did something that would change both their lives forever. "Marcus, wait." The boy stopped, turned back slowly, fear creeping into his eyes. In his experience, when adults called you back, it was never for a good reason. "That $5 is yours," Foreman said. "But I want to ask you something. You ever hear of George Foreman?" Marcus squinted at him, really looking at his face for the first time. "The boxer? The guy who sells those grills on TV?" Despite the seriousness of the moment, Foreman smiled. The grills. He'd become more famous for a kitchen appliance than for being a 2-time heavyweight champion. "Yeah, the grill guy. That's me. I'm George Foreman." The kid's eyes went even wider. "For real? You're really him?" "For real. And Marcus, I want to tell you something. When I was your age, I was just like you. I didn't have no money. I didn't have no home that felt safe. I was angry all the time, fighting everybody, stealing, getting in trouble. I thought I was going to end up dead or in prison before I turned 18.
Marcus was listening now, really listening. "What happened?" "I got lucky," Foreman said. "A man named Doc Brodus saw something in me I didn't see in myself. He taught me how to box, yeah, but more than that, he taught me that I mattered, that I could be something other than what the streets told me I had to be. Marcus looked down at the $5 bill in his hand. That's a nice story, mister, but I gotta go get some food before McDonald's gets too crowded. I know you do, Foreman said, but first, I want you to make me a deal. What kind of deal? The suspicion was back in Marcus's voice. Nobody gave something for nothing, not on these streets.
I want you to come with me to my youth center after you eat. It's right over there. Foreman pointed to a building about 2 blocks away. I want to see if maybe I can help you out, give you a place to stay, help you get back in school, teach you some things. Like boxing? Marcus asked. Maybe, if you want, but more important than boxing, I want to teach you what Doc Broadus taught me, that you matter, that you can be more than what these streets tell you you are. Marcus was quiet for a long moment. Why would you do that? You don't even know me. Because someone did it for me, Foreman said simply. And because when I look at you, I see myself 35 years ago. And if Doc Broadus hadn't helped me, I'd probably be dead right now. Or in prison, or homeless just like you. So maybe I can do for you what he did for me.
The boy's eyes were glistening now, tears threatening to spill over. What if I mess it up? What if I ain't worth helping? George Foreman got down on one knee, bringing himself to eye level with this skinny, scared, hungry child. When he spoke, his voice was gentle but firm. Marcus, listen to me very carefully. Every single person is worth helping. Every single one. You think you're not worth it because of where you've been, what you've done, maybe what's been done to you. But I'm telling you right now, as someone who's been where you are worth it. You matter. Your life matters. And if you give me a chance, I'm going to prove that to you.
2 hours later, Marcus walked through the doors of the George Foreman Youth and Community Center. He'd eaten 3 Big Macs, 2 large fries, and drank 2 Cokes at McDonald's, eating so fast Foreman worried he'd make himself sick. Now, with food in his belly for the first time in days, Marcus looked around at the facility with wide eyes. The center was Foreman's pride and joy. He'd opened it in 1984, funded by his preaching and the money he'd saved from his early boxing career. It had a full gym, a computer lab, classrooms, a cafeteria, and small dormitory rooms for kids who had nowhere else to go.
Kids just like Marcus. This is all yours? Marcus asked, awe in his voice. It belongs to the community, Foreman said. It belongs to kids who need a place to go, a place to be safe, a place to learn and grow. And if you want, it can belong to you too.
Foreman introduced Marcus to the staff, to the counselors, to the other kids who were there that morning before school. Everyone was kind, welcoming, but Marcus held himself apart, watching, waiting for the catch. There was always a catch. That afternoon, after Marcus had taken his first hot shower in 3 weeks and put on clean clothes from the center's donation closet, Foreman sat down with him in his office. Marcus, I want to know your story. Where's your family? The boy's face hardened. Dead or gone, don't matter which. It matters to me. Marcus was silent for a long time. Finally, he spoke. My mom died when I was 9, cancer. My dad, he couldn't handle it, started drinking. Then he started hitting, so I left.
Been on the streets for almost 2 years now.
2 years? Foreman's voice was filled with horror. This child had been surviving on his own since he was 10 years old. How did you make it? Marcus shrugged. You do what you gotta do. Sleep in abandoned buildings, steal food when you can, beg when you can't steal, stay away from the bad people best you can. Sometimes you can't. Foreman saw the pain flash across the boy's face and knew there were things Marcus wasn't saying, things that had been done to him out there on those streets, things no child should ever have to endure. Those days are over, Foreman said firmly. If you want, you can stay here. We'll get you enrolled in school. We'll make sure you have food, clothes, everything you need. And in return, all I ask is that you try. Try to learn. Try to grow. Try to become the man I know you can be.
Why? Marcus asked again. Why do you care so much? George Foreman leaned back in his chair, his eyes distant as he remembered his own journey. In 1977, I died. Marcus blinked. What? I died, Foreman repeated. I was in a dressing room after a fight, and I had a near-death experience. I saw hell, Marcus. I saw what happens when you live your whole life for yourself, when you don't care about nobody else, when you just take and never give back. And God gave me a second chance. He brought me back to life, and he told me something I'll never forget. He said, I don't want your money. I want you.
Foreman's voice grew stronger. So I became a preacher. I opened this center. I dedicated my life to helping kids who were just like I was, lost, angry, convinced the world had nothing for them but pain. And you know what I learned, Marcus? What? I learned that the only way my life means anything is if I use it to help others. Every kid I help, every life I change, that's one more reason God brought me back. That's one more punch I land against the darkness that tried to take me. So when I saw you this morning asking for $5, I knew God put you in my path for a reason. Maybe I'm supposed to help you, or maybe you're supposed to help me. Maybe both.
Marcus sat quietly, processing everything Foreman had said. Finally, he spoke, his voice small and uncertain. What if I can't do it? What if I'm too messed up? Foreman smiled. Marcus, I'm 45 years old, and I'm about to fight for the heavyweight championship of the world. Everyone says I'm too old, too slow, too far past my prime. They say I should retire, that I'm embarrassing myself, that I don't have a chance. You know what I tell them? What? I tell them that it's not about where you start, it's about where you finish, and I'm not finished yet. Neither are you, not by a long shot.
Over the next few weeks, Marcus slowly began to open up. He started attending the center's school program, though he was years behind where he should have been. He worked with tutors who patiently helped him catch up. He ate 3 meals a day, regular meals, and his body began to fill out. The hollow look in his eyes started to fade. And every morning at 6:30, when George Foreman went for his run, Marcus went with him. At first, the boy could barely keep up for half a mile, but Foreman never left him behind, never made him feel weak or inadequate. He just kept running at whatever pace Marcus could manage, encouraging him, pushing him, believing in him even when Marcus didn't believe in himself.
One morning, about a month after they'd met, as they ran through those same Fifth Ward streets where Foreman had first seen Marcus begging for $5, the boy asked a question. George, why do you still run through here? You're famous, you're rich, you could run anywhere. Why come back to this neighborhood? Foreman kept his pace steadied as he answered, Because I never want to forget where I came from. These streets made me who I am. The pain I felt here, the anger, the hunger, all of it taught me something important. It taught me that circumstances don't define you. Your choices define you. I could have stayed angry. I could have stayed violent. I could have let these streets eat me alive. But I made different choices.
And now I run here to remind myself that every day is a choice. Every morning I choose to get up. I choose to train. I choose to believe I can win that championship. And I choose to help kids like you, because someone once chose to help me.
Marcus ran in silence for a few more blocks. Then he said something that made Foreman stop running altogether. I want to be like you when I grow up. George Foreman put his hand on Marcus's shoulder, fighting back the tears that were threatening to spill. No, Marcus, I don't want you to be like me. I want you to be better than me. I want you to take everything I teach you and use it to become the best version of yourself, not a copy of me. Can you do that? The boy nodded, tears streaming down his own face now. I can try. That's all anyone can ever do, Foreman said. Just try and keep trying, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard.
In April of 1994, George Foreman got the news he'd been waiting for. He was going to fight Michael Moorer for the heavyweight championship of the world. The fight would be in November in Las Vegas. Foreman would be 45 years old. No one, absolutely no one, gave him a chance. The media called it a sideshow, a cash grab, an embarrassment to boxing. They said Moorer, who was 26 years old and undefeated in 35 fights, would destroy the old man. They said Foreman should retire with dignity instead of getting hurt for a payday. They said a lot of things. But Marcus didn't say any of those things. Marcus believed.
By now, the boy had been at the youth center for 3 months. He'd gained 20 pounds of healthy weight. He was attending classes regularly, and his reading level had jumped 3 grades. He'd started boxing training in the gym, and while he wasn't a natural fighter, he had something more important than talent. He had heart. And he had George Foreman in his corner. The day Foreman announced the fight with Moorer, Marcus found him in the gym. "You're really going to do it?" Marcus asked. "You're really going to fight him?" "I'm really going to do it," Foreman confirmed. "And Marcus, I want you there. I want you in Las Vegas with me. I want you to see what happens when an old man who everyone counted out refuses to quit."
The months between April and November became a blur of training, school, and life lessons. Foreman trained like a man possessed, running in the mornings, sparring in the afternoons, studying film at night. And through it all, Marcus was there, watching, learning, absorbing everything. Foreman taught Marcus about discipline. "See, boxing isn't about being the strongest or the fastest," Foreman explained one day as they worked the heavy bag. "It's about showing up every day and doing the work even when you don't feel like it, especially when you don't feel like it. Life's the same way, Marcus. Success isn't about one big moment. It's about 1,000 small moments where you chose to keep going when everything told you to quit."
Marcus absorbed these lessons like a sponge. He started applying the same discipline Foreman showed in training to his schoolwork. He'd wake up at 5:30 a.m., study for an hour before Foreman's morning run, attend classes all day, do homework in the evening, and still find time to train in the gym. The staff at the youth center noticed the change in him. He wasn't just surviving anymore, he was thriving. But Marcus still had demons. Sometimes Foreman would find him awake at 3 a.m., sitting in the common room, staring at nothing. "Can't sleep?" Foreman would ask, already knowing the answer. "Bad dreams," Marcus would say. About before, about the streets.
About things that happened. Foreman would sit with him on those nights, sharing his own struggles, his own nightmares from his past.
"You know what I learned, Marcus? You can't outrun your past. Trust me, I tried. I ran from mine for years, buried it in anger and violence and pride. But your past isn't your enemy. Your past is your teacher. Everything you survived, everything you endured, it made you stronger. It made you who you are, and who you are is someone worth being." "But I'm nobody," Marcus would say. "I'm just a homeless kid you found begging for money." "You were a homeless kid," Foreman corrected. "Now you're Marcus, a young man who's getting his education, who's learning to fight, who's building a future. That's not nobody, that's somebody, and you're going to keep becoming more somebody every single day."
As November approached, the boxing world's attention focused on Las Vegas. The promotional machine went into overdrive. Foreman, ever the showman, played up his age and his underdog status. But in private, with Marcus and his inner circle, he was focused and serious. "They think this is a joke," Foreman told Marcus one evening. "They think I'm too old, too slow, too past my prime. And you know what? Maybe they're right. Maybe I am all those things. But they're forgetting something important." "What's that?" Marcus asked. "They're forgetting that I've been counted out before. In 1974, I was the undefeated heavyweight champion, and Muhammad Ali took my title. I lost to Jimmy Young in 1977, and everyone said I was finished.
I retired, became a preacher, and everyone forgot about me. Then in 1987, when I came back to boxing at 38 years old, they laughed. They said I was a joke, a has-been trying to recapture glory."
Foreman's voice grew stronger. "But I didn't come back for glory, Marcus. I came back because my youth center needed money. I came back because kids like you needed a place to go. And I came back because I wanted to prove that it's never too late, that age is just a number, that if you believe in yourself and you're willing to do the work, anything is possible. And on November 5th, I'm going to prove it again." Marcus listened, his eyes shining. "And I'll be there to see it." "Yes, you will," Foreman said. "You'll be there."
And 20 years from now, when someone tells you that you can't do something, when someone says you're too old or too young or too whatever, you're going to remember that night in Las Vegas. You're going to remember that an old man knocked out a young champion, and you're going to know that anything is possible.
November 5th, 1994. The MGM Grand Garden Arena in Las Vegas, Nevada. Marcus sat in the front row, wearing a suit that Foreman had bought for him. It was the first suit Marcus had ever owned. Around him sat 12,000 screaming fans. Millions more were watching around the world on pay-per-view. And in that ring, wearing red shorts and a determined expression, was George Foreman. For 9 rounds, it looked like the critics were right. Michael Moore, younger, faster, sharper, dominated the fight. He jabbed and moved, making Foreman miss, scoring points, building an insurmountable lead on the judges' scorecards. Foreman's face was swollen. He was breathing hard. He looked every bit his 45 years.
Marcus watched in anguish. This wasn't how it was supposed to go. George was supposed to win. He was supposed to show the world that comebacks were possible, that age didn't matter, that belief was stronger than doubt. But Moore was winning, decisively. Between rounds, Marcus could see Foreman's corner working on him, encouraging him, but the body language told the truth. They were losing, badly. In the 10th round, with less than 2 minutes left, it looked like it was over. Foreman had given it everything he had, but sometimes everything isn't enough. Sometimes the young lion beats the old king. That's just nature. That's just life. And then it happened.
Moore, confident now, certain of victory, let his guard drop for just a fraction of a second. And George Foreman, drawing on something deeper than strength or speed or youth, threw a right hand that traveled maybe 8 inches. It was a short, compact punch, the kind that doesn't look like much on television, but carries 45 years of pain, struggle, failure, comeback, faith, and determination behind it. The punch landed on Moore's chin, and Michael Moore, the undefeated heavyweight champion of the world, fell like a tree cut at the base. The crowd exploded. The announcers lost their minds.
And in the front row, a 12-year-old boy who 9 months earlier had been begging for $5 on the streets of Houston leaped to his feet, tears streaming down his face, screaming at the top of his lungs.
George Foreman had done it. At 45 years old, 20 years after losing his title to Muhammad Ali, George Foreman had knocked out the champion and reclaimed the heavyweight championship of the world. He was the oldest heavyweight champion in boxing history. Impossible had just become possible. After the chaos died down, after the belt was wrapped around Foreman's waist, after the interviews and the celebrations and the madness of victory, Foreman found Marcus. The boy was still crying, overwhelmed by what he'd witnessed. "You did it," Marcus said, his voice choked with emotion. "They said you couldn't, and you did it anyway." Foreman pulled Marcus into a hug. "We did it, son. We did it together. You think I could have done this without you?"
Without knowing that every morning when I ran those streets, I was running for you, for all the kids at the center. You gave me a reason to keep fighting. You reminded me why comebacks matter.
"But I didn't do anything," Marcus protested. "You're the one who trained. You're the one who fought." "No," Foreman said firmly. "You did everything. You believed when everyone else doubted. You showed up every day, ready to learn and grow. You proved that second chances work, that investing in people pays off. Marcus, don't you see? I didn't just win a boxing match tonight. I proved that the work we do at the center matters. I proved that kids like you, kids everyone else gives up on, are worth fighting for. You're my real championship. That belt is just a piece of leather and metal. But you're a life transformed, and that's worth more than all the titles in the world."
The years that followed were extraordinary for both of them. Foreman defended his title once, then retired from boxing for good in 1997. He focused his energy on the youth center, on his family, and on mentoring young people. The George Foreman grill became a worldwide phenomenon, making him wealthier than boxing ever had. But he never forgot where he came from, and he never stopped helping kids who needed it. Marcus flourished. He graduated high school with honors, the first person in his family to do so. He earned a scholarship to the University of Houston, studying business administration. During college, he worked part-time at the youth center, giving back to the place that had saved his life.
After graduation, Marcus approached Foreman with an idea. "I want to start a business," Marcus said. "A real business that creates jobs and opportunities in neighborhoods like the Fifth Ward. But I need help. I need guidance. I need someone who believes in me." Foreman smiled. "How much do you need?" "Actually," Marcus said, "I don't need money. I need something more valuable. I need your name. I need George Foreman to be my partner, to teach me how to turn an idea into reality." And so they became partners. Over the next decade, they built a small empire of businesses focused on urban development, job creation, and youth empowerment. They bought abandoned buildings in the Fifth Ward and converted them into affordable housing. They opened training centers teaching skilled trades. They created programs connecting at-risk youth with job opportunities. By 2010, Marcus had become a millionaire several times over. But more importantly, he'd become exactly what Foreman had believed he could be, a man who used his success to lift others up. Marcus never forgot where he came from. He never forgot being that scared, hungry 12-year-old asking a stranger for $5. And he never forgot the man who saw past the dirt and hunger to the potential underneath. In 2016, when George Foreman was inducted into the International Boxing Hall of Fame, Marcus stood beside him on the stage. And when Foreman gave his acceptance speech, he did something that surprised everyone. He pulled Marcus forward and told the world their story. "Boxing gave me fame," Foreman said that night. "The grill gave me fortune, but Marcus gave me purpose. 22 years ago, this young man asked me for $5. I could have just given him the money and kept running. Nobody would have blamed me. But something told me to stop. Something told me that this child mattered, that his life had value, that he deserved a chance. And you know what? Believing in Marcus changed my life just as much as it changed his. Because success isn't about how much money you make or how many titles you win. Success is about how many lives you touch. It's about how many people you help become better versions of themselves. Marcus didn't just ask me for $5 that morning. He gave me a gift. He gave me the chance to be the kind of man Doc Brodus was for me. He gave me the opportunity to prove that second chances work, that love is more powerful than circumstances, that every single human being has value if someone will just take the time to see it. Foreman turned to Marcus, tears in his eyes. "Thank you, son, for asking me for $5. Thank you for trusting me. Thank you for working hard and never giving up. Thank you for becoming the man I knew you could be. You're my greatest knockout. You're my real championship. And I'm more proud of you than I am of anything else I've ever accomplished." The audience gave them a standing ovation that lasted 5 minutes. Marcus and Foreman stood there together, the old boxer and the young man he'd saved, both of them crying, both of them grateful for the morning when their paths had crossed and both their lives had changed forever. Today, Marcus runs the George Foreman Youth Foundation, a network of centers across the country helping homeless and at-risk youth. He's married with 3 children, and he's dedicated his life to giving other kids the same chance he was given. And every year, on February 8th, the anniversary of the day he met George Foreman, Marcus goes back to that same corner in Houston's Fifth Ward. He stands there with $5 bills, and he waits for kids who need help. And when they come, hungry and scared and hopeless, he gives them money for food. And then he offers them something worth infinitely more. He offers them a chance, a second chance, the kind of chance that George Foreman gave him. The kind of chance that transforms a $5 transaction into $1 million life. Because that's the lesson George Foreman taught Marcus on that cold February morning in 1994.
It's not about the money you give. It's about seeing the value in people everyone else has overlooked. It's about believing in someone when they don't believe in themselves. It's about understanding that every single person you meet might be one act of kindness away from changing their entire life. George Foreman didn't just give Marcus $5 that morning. He gave him belief. He gave him hope. He gave him family. He gave him a future. And in return, Marcus gave Foreman something just as valuable. He gave him purpose. He gave him proof that the work mattered. He gave him a living legacy that would outlast any boxing record or business success.
If this story moves you, remember that you don't need to be a world champion or a millionaire to change someone's life. Sometimes all it takes is stopping when everyone else keeps running. Sometimes all it takes is seeing potential when everyone else sees problems. Sometimes all it takes is believing in someone until they learn to believe in themselves. George Foreman proved you could knock out a champion at 45, but his greatest victory wasn't in the ring. His greatest victory was seeing a homeless kid asking for $5 and recognizing himself 35 years earlier. His greatest victory was choosing to stop. His greatest victory was Marcus. And that's a knockout that will echo through generations.